Listen to me. If there was a wise man who would ever think of this, they would say in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. For I am the man himself.
One and all, and how you guys doing tonight? This is the Club of the Man 1993. You talk about second chances. We're going to talk about the second mountain, as we are going to do the 26th episode in this WWE 24 series, Edge, the Second Mountain. This is a documentary that, of course, goes behind the scenes, more in depth of the story, how the rated R superstar Edge, in real life, Adam Copeland, made his journey back to the ring at the 2020 Royal Rumble match. Now, as Edge stated at the beginning of this documentary, originally this was not intended to be for that story. This documentary was in production and the recordings during the time when Edge did make his comeback. But originally the idea was just to do a documentary on like life after wrestling, how he adapted, and what he does now to keep himself busy. Well, they kind of still touched on that, but they still, of course, went through the whole story, which is nice because I definitely feel like, when Edge first came back and he had that promo on Raw on night after the Rumble, where he basically didn't go into much details about what led to his return. But he just said he had a lot of what ifs. Well, we went behind the scenes and found out the story about those what ifs. How he went back to wrestling, when the gears kind of got in motion, and how also at the same time, when he kind of gained closure on the passing of his mother as well. We get into all that in this, so far, the longest documentary in this series at 1 hour and 15 minutes. I won't lie, though, there was a couple of times where I felt like there was some things that went on a little too long. Like, I felt they showed a little too many highlights when he was in the Rumble match. They could have trimmed down on that just a wee bit. Like, it felt like a documentary that was 75 minutes, but it probably could have been just about an hour, in my opinion. But still a fantastic, fantastic documentary. Adam Copeland, Edge, was somebody, as a late bloomer fan, I didn't get to see his original run. The run when he was the rated R superstar, and that made him. And the fact that I have been blessed in WWE and now AEW, have been blessed to see him come back to the ring and finish his career on his terms, has definitely been another dream come true for me as a wrestling fan. There have been 3 people during my time who've been told they would never wrestle again, and those 3 heroes of mine have made a return. That's Adam Copeland, Bryan Danielson, and Saraya, also known, of course, as Paige. But we're going to talk about the behind the scenes of the story of Adam Copeland getting back to the ring. So, we went all the way back to his original last match, which was at WrestleMania 27. He opened up the show defending his World Heavyweight Championship against that year's Rumble winner, Alberto Del Rio. And he mentioned how, at the time he was banged up, he had mentioned to some friends that he was thinking about maybe wrapping it up soon. But he was not done yet, but he was planning on taking a break sometime soon because he was banged up. And he says he remembers going out and just really taking in the crowd that night. And after he won the match, his one friend even said, "Was that your last match? You just had that look in your eyes." Which, again, like I said, he and at the time too, he said he had a fulfilling career. The only thing was he didn't get to end his career when he wanted to. And yes, he probably wasn't too far away from wrapping it up. But he also still felt he had more left in the tank, but he just needed a little bit of a break. 8 years prior to that, though, he had hurt his neck and had neck surgery. And I guess from the wear and tear, obviously, he was still in some pain. And it was a week later, he was told that he had to retire. So, of course, he announced his retirement. And, he pretty much accepted it. I think what also helped him a lot was he did detach himself from the wrestling business for a while. Like when Daniel Bryan retired in 2016, he just a few months later went back on the road as the SmackDown general manager. Which, looking back at it now, that may have been a mistake because it did bother him being in that role. Whereas Edge, I think he was able to, embrace it more and be more accepting of it. Because he actually did put off that second surgery that he did to have on his neck, the triple fusion neck surgery that ended up actually fixing him for a couple years after he retired. Of course, he did do some movies and whatnot. They got into a little bit of that. And then it wasn't until he made a couple of appearances here and there, but it wasn't until like 2015, I think it was, when he really started to dip his toe back into wrestling. And it was around that time also, he started this podcast. That's when him and Christian had the Edge and Christian show, Totally Reeks Awesomeness, on the WWE network. So he was doing some stuff again, like within the company. And it was around that time also where he finally went back and got a checkup on his neck. Because he hadn't gotten one since he had the surgery. And he went to the checkup, but he didn't go to it like looking to get back in the ring. He just more so went to just to see, how he's doing and whatnot. And again, he had wiped his hands clean from wrestling. He wasn't planning on coming back into the ring at all at that time. And I think they also fast forward to 2017, when it was one of the first times he went to the Performance Center, and he got to chat with some guys in NXT. I know they did an interview. He seemed to have been making a connection a lot with Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. Good guys, of course, chat along with. They're very cool wrestlers. And then even like then, he says the wheels were somewhat turning, but not really. And he thinks that they really didn't start really turning at all until the incident with Sheamus. So, one time, I think it was like 2019 he was bike riding with Sheamus for his Celtic Warrior workout show or whatever it's called. And while they were mountain biking, he wiped out and fell off his bike. And he was fine. He was in no pain, nothing whatsoever. Heck, even whenever he got the second surgery, he said, I don't have a headache anymore, and didn't realize I had it. So when he fell off and he was fine, that's when the wheels kind of started, he started kind of thinking those what ifs, pretty much. And then, not too long after that, Summerslam was in Toronto. And that's when they get into how his mother passed away in 2018. And how she was one of his biggest supporters. And Edge's real-life wife, Beth Phoenix, during this whole process also, when he was looking to come back, also felt she had to keep a promise from Edge's mother that she would watch out for him. Which, of course, even as a wife, Beth was excellent with this. Beth played a great role in this documentary as well. But during that time, it was the first time in a while that Edge had been to Toronto. He went back to Toronto. He finished cleaning out his mother's estate, which there was this scene where he sat down with Christian, and they were going through this box of all these old photos and gear designs that they made growing up and whatnot. Just going down memory lane again. It was another scene that was a wee bit long, but it was heartfelt, and it was nice to see that happened. And it kind of felt like he got some closure with the death of his mother, doing that weekend, and also kind of testing the waters again in wrestling, because where's it going? I know he had a SummerSlam appearance or somewhere else. I wanted to mention first though. Oh, he sat in Scotiabank Arena, mentioning how like that place brings back a lot of memories for him. It was the arena where Christian had turned on Edge. It was also the arena at the time, because this is before, of course, he went to AEW, that which I didn't mention that for a second also when we get to that. But he'd also mentioned that was also the place where him and Christian had their last one-on-one match with each other. He also mentions how that was also the arena that held the Edge Appreciation Night in 2013. I'm sorry, on September 13th, 2011. And that's actually the night, he said, when him and Beth Phoenix kind of started connecting. Because they had known of each other, but when they were talking at the Edge Appreciation Night that night, they didn't realize that they had trained in like the same gym and a bunch of other things that they didn't realize they had in common. And that's kind of where they connected, and they started dating, and they eventually got married. So that was a special spot as well. But what I also forgot to mention, though, well, I don't think they really talked about it quite yet, but the segment he had at SummerSlam on the pre-show with Elias, he kind of went into business for himself a wee bit for what it looks like. Because nobody told him to do that spear on Elias. Even Beth was surprised. She thought that he was going to do just a promo and that was it. Nope. He went out and he speared Elias. And of course, that kind of got the crowd buzzing again, because that's the first time we've seen Edge have any physicality on camera since his match with Del Rio at WrestleMania 27. But around this time also, he had mentioned that, well, in this documentary, he said another company, which was very obviously AEW, had reached out to him and asked if he was interested. But at this time, he didn't know if he was cleared to wrestle. Again, him doing the spear at SummerSlam was kind of a thing of his own. Of course, Beth was stunned, and he told Beth, "I'm fine. I feel great." So Beth said that I think the two things that if he's going to go through this, needs to promise is he needs to see the best of the best as far as doctors, and she needs to see it for himself that he's okay. Because that's what she mentioned, as a wife looking out for him, and that also look out for him. And then again, she said the thing about that. She felt that she had to look out for him when she made that promise. That promise to his mother. So, where was I going with this? So he went to see the doctors, and he also went to Pittsburgh to see Dr. Maroon, and Dr. Maroon did clear him when he went to Pittsburgh, which of course is awesome. And then he met with like marketing and creative, because he did talk to Vince also. The first thing he did before he made any decision on if he was going to go WWE or go to AEW, he talked to Vince. And Vince was right when he said that, well, if you're going to do this, it needs to be done here. At the time too, I thought that, Edge was a WWE lifer. He was loyal to them, but he went to AEW basically when his options kind of ran out in WWE. And again, it was a respectful leave when it happened. Like I said, the only two things I wish would have happened before he left was he won a world title and he had a match with Cody. Those are the two things I do wish he could have done with his time back in WWE. But he's in AEW now. He's having fun, even though there's a couple of questionable feuds he's been in, like the recent one and his match with Mox last night wasn't that good, but it happens. Great performers like Mox and Edge are going to be in not as great feuds. It happens. But so anyway, so he went to marketing, went to creative, and he mentioned that he wanted to keep it, of course, secretive, and he mentioned the idea of returning at the Royal Rumble. And I guess he couldn't train at the Performance Center, so he had a ring set up in his garage, and that's where he trained. And for a while, Beth Phoenix was actually training with him to help him out. But as she's mentioned too, there's only so much she can do for a guy who's 6'4" and 250 pounds. So the only other person, of course, besides Christian, who wasn't, of course, clear to wrestle at the time, that he told was someone else he was kind of close with, and that's Dash Wilder. Now, of course, known as Cash Wheeler in AEW. They had connected, and Edge is actually the reason why Cash got into WWE. Well, Daniel Wheeler's his real name. But I guess he was a trainer at one of his gyms in Asheville, North Carolina, where they live. And, he was a wrestler, and he basically, got him into WWE. But he came by and helped train Edge as well, to basically do the things with him that he couldn't do with Beth. So that obviously helped very well, and also kind of gave Beth a little bit of like an ease of mind. But even as like Christian said too in an interview, that if he wanted to come back, he wanted to come back as Edge. He didn't want to come back as just a shell of his former self. He wanted to be the rated R superstar and whatnot. And sure enough, he made his return at the Rumble in 2020 in Houston. Of course, he hid out in a manager's office. I like the one time where someone knocked on the door and he hid, and it was Beth. She popped in and she goes, "Is he naked?" "Oh, I've seen him naked before," something like that, like something really goofy. Oh yeah, something else they touched on too. Getting back to it, the life after wrestling was how he was they balanced out being parents and working the jobs that they worked. For the longest time, Edge was the one who was helping the girls get ready to go to school and whatnot for Lyric and Ruby. And, they are obviously great parents, and it's worked out very well for them in the long run, but obviously balancing out the schedules, can be a challenge, but they make it work. But yes, Edge did return at number 21. He was in the final 3, and he was eliminated, I think, by Roman Reigns, I believe. And, of course, Drew McIntyre would end up winning that Rumble match. That 2020 Men's Rumble was an awesome match. And to me, it was like the last, very happy moment, in my opinion, for me at least, until after the pandemic. Although, I can always say this, during the pandemic, one great thing that happened for me then was during the pandemic was when I met my wife. But yeah, Edge made that return. He was awesome. And he's been around since in WWE, AEW. He's had a good run. He's definitely crossed some things off like the bucket list, pretty much. Again, I know that the door's wide open for him in WWE. I mean, sorry, in AEW right now for many different options. He just made his return from an ankle injury. Like I said, the only two things I wish he would have done in WWE before he left or even hung it up was win back the world title, because he never lost it. And I also wish that he could have had a match with Cody. Those are the only two things that I wish he would have done while in WWE. And of course, also, he had his last match in WWE with Sheamus, because again, he was kind of the person who was involved with him getting the wheels turning to getting back into the ring. He also mentioned about the second mountain, because that's part of the title. I think it was part of some book where the first mountain is you become successful, and the second one you grow and become something even better, or something like that. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite. Another one of my personal favorites is this one, Edge, the second mountain. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on this 24 special, Edge, the second mountain? Like I said, do you think there was some parts that was a wee bit too long, but still absolutely awesome documentary for sure? I loved every minute of it. You guys thoughts down in the comments section below. Be sure also, as always, to slap a like on the video and subscribe for more content on my channel. You may follow me on Twitter as well at the Club of the Man 93. You may also follow me on Instagram at the Club of the Man 1993. The next one is Ric Flair, The Final Farewell, where I haven't seen this one. I've never watched this one yet. But I guess we go behind the scenes of the days leading up to Ric Flair's final WWE match at WrestleMania 24 against Shawn Michaels. Again, I've never seen that one before, so that'll be a first to watch. And yeah, we have 11 more left in the series. Definitely some coming up that I haven't seen yet, like this one coming up. The Keith Lee one, the Big E one. Some of the later WrestleMania recap ones, like the 37s and 38s I've never seen before. And yeah, we're getting close to the end. Again, only 11 left. So This is a great one, guys, but hopefully the Ric Flair one is great as well. So until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch y'all later. Have a great rest of your night, and do not forget, in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. And for I am the man himself, and that is not just an opinion, my friends. That is a fact of life. Yeah!